present the colors. Introducing Staff Sergeant John Connelly. As a post commander, this is probably one of the best things I've done. Staff Sergeant John Connelly, a World War II prisoner of war. We were very fortunate to have World War II veterans. They actually are passing away at the rate of 372 World War II veterans a day. Mr. Connelly was the last child of 8 of Irish immigrants, Joseph and Margaret Connelly, and they raised a great American. Mr. Connelly graduated high school in June 1943 and was inducted into the U.S. Army September 1943. Mr. Connelly has been featured in the front page of the May edition of the North Jacks monthly newspaper. You can also see interviews of him on YouTube. Mr. Connelly's military service has been documented by German students in a thesis where they went to the village, interviewed people, and where the crash site happened of his B-24 Liberator called the Cape Cod Special II in the southern part of the Black Forest of Germany. After doing my personal reading of his story, and the German college student's thesis, God performed many miracles to keep Mr. Connelly alive. Many shot down bomber air crews were killed on the spot by the Germans. So God was watching over John and his crew. John is also a member of the VFW Post 11406, and he's a very honored member. I present to you from our greatest generation, Staff Sergeant John Connelly.
After that introduction, I'll sit down and just say thank you. I'm going to condense 60 minutes into 10 in view of the heat and the time, etc. So join me on my last mission. The date was July 21st, 1944. The Cape Cod Special, a B-24 Liberator bomber with its crew of 10 men, was on its 8th mission. The target was Munich, Germany. We had taken off at 6:30 from the base in Shipton, England, and there was the usual confusion getting in formation. Over the channel, we gunners test-fired our 50 caliber guns, and over France, we picked up our fighter escort. That day were P-47 Thunderbolts. We were flying at 27,000 feet. We were under oxygen, of course. And we were wearing our new dark green heated flying suits. Frostbite was always a concern since the temperatures up there varied from 40 to 60 below zero. That day I was flying the right waist. I was 19. I was from Newark, New Jersey. Across from me was Paul Humphreys. He was 21. He was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was the only married enlisted man on the crew. And in the tail was Leonard Eremo. He was 21. He was from Brooklyn, New York. He was a little guy, and we christened him with the name of Little Chum. We four occupied the rear of the plane, and we were separated from the 6 men in front by the bomb bay area. And that day we were carrying 4 tons or 8,000 pounds of bombs. When we started to experience flak, we knew we were going from France into Germany. Flak was a 20-pound explosive shell, and it was fired out of an 88 millimeter cannon. When the flak became extremely intense, I knew we were approaching the IP. That's the initial point. That's the start of the bomb run. Just as we were entering the IP, the pilot came over the intercom and announced that we'd been hit. He had to drop out of formation. Immediately, the plane took that big, typical bounce. That told us that the bombardier flipped a switch and got rid of the bombs. There were complaints of losing altitude from the front. That's when the co-pilot came on the air and announced that we wouldn't be able to make it back to the base. We were going to head for neutral Switzerland. They had a rough time turning the plane around because of the lack of rudder control. And at that point, the navigator put us on a course due west. Here's Munich. There's, in southern Germany, you'd find yourself on a straight line in Freiburg, southern Germany. When we got over Freiburg, I learned this 70 years later, that Freiburg only had one 88 millimeter cannon, and it was manned by Hitler Youth, kids 11 to 16. They took one shot and knocked out our left inboard engine. It caught fire. The pilot had to feather the props, and it started to smoke like crazy. At that point, the navigator put us on a course due south, straight down to Switzerland. It's a good thing we got out of the range of those kids. At 9,000 feet, we were sitting ducks. When the navigator was assured the pilot that we were over Switzerland, the pilot gave us the word to jump. This would be the first jump for everybody. And we enlisted and had never received any parachute training. I landed in the woods, a heavy wooded area. I cut myself down because I couldn't get out of the harness. And I realized that it was on top of a mountain. There was a wood road running in back of me, and it ran over to a picturesque log cabin. And what impressed me about the cabin, how meticulous the kindling wood was stacked on its side. I called over about 3 or 4 times, and I got no answer. Then I remembered a lecture from the States. If you go down near the border, go as further south as you can, because civilians along the border will turn you in. So I worked my way for me to go south, I had to go down the mountain. I learned later, 70 years later, that it was about 3,300 feet high. I couldn't go straight down. I had to go down at an angle, and I came to a hard surface blacktop macadam road. It was in excellent condition. The area was pristine, all green, quite a contrast to Texas, where everything was all brown. Remember now, I'm free. The war is over. So I'm walking down the road admiring the scenery. Then something attracts my attention up ahead, and I see a man. He was about 6 foot tall. He had white pants, a white shirt, olive complexion. That was a little perplexing. And dark hair slicked straight back. And he had a long, oversized rifle that he was sort of indecision as to what he was going to do with it. I walked straight up to him. When I was about a foot in front of him, he started to scream, "Pistol, pistol," and started hitting me on the chest with the butt of the rifle. I was in shock. Why was this guy being so unfriendly? So all I did is I put my arm across, I pushed the gun away, and I said, "Stop it." And it was as if I tased him. He stood there inert and limp with it on his side. And before I could open my mouth, up out of the woods, a crowd of men come running up, and they're all excited, and they're running in circles, and they're pointing up to the sky. I didn't understand what the heck they were talking about. The only thing I could think of is they want the silk from the chute. So I mimicked the chute, pointed up, and 2 guys on my right there shook their head yes. So I said, "Follow me," and I turned around, and I started to walk back. And as I'm walking back, there was an older man in the group, and he comes alongside of me, and in broken English, or halting English, he says, "I, English prisoner, World War I. You now, German prisoner." That was a Marlboro moment. I don't smoke. Then your head is spinning. So we're walking back. I put my hand in my pocket, and I pull out a pack of juicy fruit gum. So I give the older man a slice I take, and we're chewing. Then I lean back, and I say, "Does anybody want it back here?" And they all shook their head. So I counted them. There were 6 of them. I only had 3 slices of gum. So I broke the sticks and gave each guy a half, and everybody took one. I don't know what happened to the man with the gun. I remember telling this story to, some friends years ago. And one of the groups said, oh, he ran home to change his underwear. When we came up to the spot where I came down out of the mountain, you looked up there, you couldn't see anything. It was heavily wooded. So four of them ran back into the woods, and then two of them took charge of me. And I started to walk back down the road. In view of the heat and everything, I'm going to stop here, and I just want to tell you that all through my Army career and combat, I had my guardian angel on my side. Now, the 24th of July was a Friday in 1944. And I was walking down that road giving out that gum between 12 and 12:30. Exactly at that time, in that time frame, 15 miles away, in another small village, a bomber by the nickname Strictly from Hunger, they were bailing out. They knew definitely that they were in Germany. Not like us, we thought we were in Switzerland. They had the misfortune, 5 of them had the misfortune of being rounded up in a village called Skolash. That's where a Nazi leader by the name of Benedict Kohner lived. 5 of the crew were rounded up, and they administered what the Germans call neck shots. He took them out in the woods and shot them in the back of the head, those 5 people. So that day, my guardian angel was working overtime. Thank you for listening, and I'm conscious of the heat and everything, so I quit. Thank you.
Staff Sergeant John Connelly, our guest of honor. Mr. L. Ferraro, City Councilman, District 2, will present you a certificate from the City of Jacksonville.
First of all, I want to thank all the veterans and their families for everything they've done. Because of you, we're not speaking other languages. We're free, and we're able to have these wonderful things in our country, so thank you very much. So what I'd like to do, Mr. Connelly, this is a certificate from the City of Jacksonville to you, and a certificate of commemoration of the services and sacrifices of Army Staff Sergeant John Connelly, in recognition of his service to the United States in World War II as a gunner of a B-24 Liberator bomber, and his 10 months of imprisonment as a German prisoner of war in Stalag Luft 4 in Poland. The bravery, perseverance, and ultimate triumph of Sergeant Connelly and his fellow prisoners in the face of mistreatment and privation continue to be an inspiration to all that hear his gripping story. The citizens of Jacksonville express their gratitude and respect for the service of these brave soldiers. May 25th, 2019. Thank you very much, sir, for our freedom.